I'm actually here because of my parents. We took this picture, or rather, I took it during the pandemic. Remember COVID? Remember the lockdowns? I called my parents, and I could hear in their voices that the lockdown was just too much. So, I told them to dress up nicely, and we drove to the beach. We spent about an hour or so there, and it was wonderful. And I think you can really see it in this photo. It is truly a deeply cherished photo of mine. Okay, why am I here? 11 years ago, when my father was 75, he fell for the first time as an older adult. Why do I say, as an older adult? Because we've all fallen countless times throughout our lives. But there comes a certain age, or a certain situation, where a fall can cause damage that completely alters your life. So, when my father fell, all at once, I saw a complete shift from an independent, optimistic, energetic man who did whatever he wanted. Suddenly, I saw him start calculating every trip outside the house. How did he calculate it? Based on, what is the risk of doing this? Where is it located? What is the risk of the next fall? So I asked him, Dad, what's going on? And he told me, look, I'm not afraid to die. I'm afraid of losing my independence and becoming a burden. On you, on mom, on everyone. My dad summarized it so concisely and so beautifully in my eyes that I just had to share it with you. And what he also summarized was my mother's greatest fear. Today, I can tell you that my mother's Alzheimer's actually started about 20 years ago. And from the moment the Alzheimer's began, slowly, but very consistently, she lost her independence. Until last week, when she passed away. That's why I'm using these notes, because I couldn't focus after everything, and I need a little help. So please forgive me for relying on them, but that's how it is. I accompanied her through this process, the very process she was so afraid of. And I discovered, thanks to my mother, that within this process there is also joy, and there is also growth. And this growth wasn't just ours. It was for all of us, for everyone who supported us. Her entire life, my mother looked at things with optimism, with positivity. She looked at life searching for the good and the beautiful. Decades ago, when I was in my early 20s, I asked her how she managed to always look positively at the good and the beautiful, and she told me, it's a choice, and it's a daily practice. And I have carried that with me from then until today. In recent years, as long as mom could still speak, she would sit in my parents' kitchen. That was the center of the house. Or we would take her for walks or meet up for family gatherings all the time. She would say, our life is good. And that was pretty much the only sentence she said in her final years as she began to decline more and more. She would just repeat, our life is good, a good life, over and over again. As the disease progressed, she became more and more like a child. That was Yafa's transformation. And she lost all anger, and she lost all judgment. When I would take her for walks around the neighborhood, back when she still could, every single thing she saw, whether it was a cloud in the sky or a little dandelion or a sparrow, she would look at it like a little girl. Her eyes would light up and she'd say, this is the most beautiful thing I've seen in my life. And we would pass by. Just think about bringing someone along. My mother, who was living with dementia, who was already at maybe 2% of who she used to be, and all the time saying, the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. That feeling, despite all the grief, is incredible. It's a feeling that gives you a very profound perspective. I understood more and more the secret that mom revealed to me. Even in a state of memory loss, even in a state of loss of cognitive function, even in a state of losing physical abilities, or any physical, mental, or cognitive capacities, what she showed me is that choice still exists. And in how she behaved and spoke to us, she was never aggressive. She always showed that there is a choice. And I kept thinking about Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. There is always a choice. But with my mother, it wasn't from a book. Of course, she didn't choose the illness, but it was in her daily life. the way she was, Mom chose daily to focus on how good her life was, to surrender to care, while maintaining boundaries. When something wasn't right, we knew exactly what it was. She knew how to get her message across to us, and she always looked for the beautiful. In the United States, there is an organization for Parkinson's care management called In Motion. They talk about improving a little bit every single day. When I look at that and I look at my mother, and everything I went through with members of the Parkinson's Association, improving a little bit every day, a little bit of mobility, a little bit of movement, a little bit of graceful aging, a little bit of breathing, a little bit of shifting our outlook on life to see where things are good. And maybe we can call this developing emotional reserve. Let's go back to Dad, to the period after the fall. Being a doctor himself, he went to the healthcare fund and utilized every service the healthcare fund could offer for fall prevention. He did physical therapy for fall prevention. He did everything the healthcare fund could provide. And I asked him, "How is it working out now?" And he answered, "No, I'm still deeply afraid of the next fall." And he remained extremely cautious, and his life still hadn't returned to what it used to be. Now, I am a martial arts therapist, one of the seniors in Israel. And before that, as I mentioned, I am also an engineer. I thought, who else can help Dad if not me? So I started taking techniques from martial arts to teach both of my parents, testing out what helps and what doesn't. There are so many methods out there, but I needed to see what actually worked for my parents. And over a period of time, an orderly methodology emerged that effectively helps prevent falls. But it wasn't enough. Why? Because during every training session, my parents would say, "What you're teaching us is good, but what happens when we actually fall?" And then I realized I had to provide them with a better solution. So I started teaching both of my parents. We started developing together, or more accurately, how to land correctly when a sudden fall happens, and how to get back up as if nothing happened. This process took about a year to fully develop into a working methodology. And that is how, step by step, we developed this method. Today, at any age, anyone can learn how to fall in a way that prevents injury from the impact. Now the question is, how do you know how to do this? When a fall happens, it occurs so rapidly. I always compare it to driving. When driving, the difference between hitting a child who runs and darts across the street comes down to the split second between this movement and that movement. No one is born with that reflex automatically, yet we know how to execute that movement fast enough to stop the car. The same principle applies here, through training. By internalizing the habit, you can execute it in real time. Once my parents experienced this shift, Dad started feeling significantly more secure. They told me that I absolutely had to teach this to as many people as possible. Dad has fallen 9 times to date. Every single time he fell, he actually grew stronger. He gained more confidence. Why? Because he got right back up and went about his day as planned. In essence, his entire fear completely vanished. Okay, I've talked too much longer than I scheduled. Let me cut to the chase because I want to show you what I actually came here to demonstrate. When we talk about progression, I want to focus on posture and grounding. Let's look at grounding. You see, as Parkinson's progresses, a stage is reached where it becomes very difficult to learn safe landing. But how to prevent falls altogether, that is something I can teach you. Our bodies, with Parkinson's or without Parkinson's, are constantly changing. What happens is our center of gravity shifts. When the body leans forward, weight shifts to the toes, and as a result, we begin shuffling our feet. This is the most common gait pattern when walking like this. We aren't really walking. We are tilting from side to side, and any uneven surface on the ground will trip us up. Makes sense, right? So, what do we need to do? What actually determines our balance? It's the alignment of the head over the shoulders over the pelvis, and the pelvis balanced over the feet. We need to align them in a straight line, head over shoulders over pelvis, and pelvis stacked right over the heels. How do we achieve this? It all comes down to releasing tension in the back. I invite you to do a quick 30-second practice with me. The physical awareness you will gain in just this half a minute will create a lasting change, and I'll explain how in a moment to dramatically improve your balance. If you are seated, and I encourage you to sit for this, scoot away from the backrest of your chair. Move away from the backrest. Don't strain or do anything forcingly just yet. For a moment, bring your awareness to the sensation in your shoulder blades and your neck. Notice it. Notice the sensation in your lower back. Notice how it feels in your pelvis and how much of your seat is actually making contact with the chair. Now, here is what we are going to do. Arch the back and roll the pelvis upward. Then tilt the pelvis backward. Arch up and roll it back. Notice how your head is continuously being drawn upward. Allow your head to lengthen upward. Let your neck elongate further and further. If you successfully let your neck lengthen, you will immediately feel a release of tension in your shoulders. Now let's do this 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. And now just sit normally. Relax your body, keeping your head drawn upward. Let your weight sink comfortably into the chair. Do you feel a difference in how you interface with the chair? Do you feel your weight grounding more firmly into the seat? In a standing position, when you release the pelvis, releasing this specific area, letting it go. Suddenly, when you try this standing comfortably, you will feel yourself rooting into the ground. Make sense? What I have given you just now consists of 2 core tools. First, awareness. If you maintain awareness of the tension held in your neck, your shoulder blades, and your pelvis, and simply release it, allowing the head to lift, alignment of the pelvis over the heels, and unlocking the knees, you will instantly feel rooted into the floor. You become significantly more stable. The next step is walking with this alignment. We won't have time to cover all of that today, but just this release unlocks powerful capabilities for your balance. Your physical awareness is your absolute asset for balance, specifically the awareness of your pelvis and your shoulder blades. Start integrating this into your daily life. When sitting, notice your posture. When standing, notice your body alignment. When walking, notice your structure. This awareness alone can actively prevent countless falls because you cannot shuffle your feet and you will actually feel taller. Do you know why? Because you are mathematically taller. And when you carry yourself taller, the entire world looks a bit better. So, what is the next step? First, tune into your body and anchor yourself in physical awareness. Second, expand your emotional reserve. As I mentioned, how you choose to view the world matters. Stay conscious of these 2 tools, and you will instantly be in a far better position. And smiling always helps. So, start your day with a smile, a long neck, and a released pelvis. That is all. Thank you very much.